So this one's one of my all-time favorite stories, probably ever. I thought I told this one like years ago, back when I first started my channel, but I guess I didn't, and I'm very glad that I didn't because back then I was a little bit of a squeaker, and I'd be like,
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Austin here.
and I don't really want to do that. So it's good that I'm older now and I'm more grown, and I could probably tell the story in a lot more detail because back then I sucked at telling stories. But anyway, yeah, let's get into one of my favorite story times of all time. Before I do, real quick, I dropped an album not long ago. Haven't really been promoting it lately, so I just want to say, if you haven't heard my music, go check out the new album. I think it's really sick. Anyway, yeah. So today's story time all takes place when I was 15. 15, yeah, very young. Very stupid back then, I can't lie. I was probably the dumbest I've ever been in my life. And really back then, I only did two things. Actually, scratch that. I only did three things. I hung out with my friends as much as I could. I played as much Xbox 360 as I possibly could. And I smoked a lot of weed for a 15-year-old. Now, back then, I would argue with everybody around me who told me that was a bad idea and be like, no, it's fine, it's fine. But I can't lie. Looking back, a lot of them were probably right. Because at 15, you're still kind of developing, and I smoked so much that I would develop like crazy panic attacks and anxiety. And from the day of my first one when I was 15 and smoking and having my first panic attack to now, I still have them. And I just feel like if I waited to smoke a couple more years later, like, I don't know, 18, I probably would have not had as much anxiety. But anyway, that's besides the point. Can't really change the past. Just kind of giving you guys some insight on my experience and maybe what not to do because I'm an idiot. But anyway, yeah, I really only did three things back then. That was smoke, play video games, and hang out with friends. And I was definitely disobeying my parents quite a bit around this time. I was kind of a little shithead. And yeah, one night I was sitting in my room on a Thursday night. It was a January Thursday night, so it was freezing cold where I live. Like, no joke, it was like 25 degrees outside, which is so fucking cold. And I'm not looking forward to that month again where I live because it's freezing. But yeah, I was in my room just watching some Jersey Shore on my TV, and it was about 1 in the morning, and I did not want to go to school the next day. I was not looking forward to it. And on top of that, I had insomnia like I had every other night, so I just couldn't sleep. And yeah, I'm just sitting there bored out of my mind and not tired at all. And I decided to pull open my phone and text one of my friends, who was also kind of a 15-year-old little shithead like me. We'll just call him John, okay? I hit up John, and I was like, yo, John, are you awake? He's like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, dude, I am so fucking bored. Do you want to hang out? Keep in mind, 1 in the morning, Thursday night, school night. John lived like 2 blocks from me, so I could walk to his house. And he was like, dude, it's 1 a.m. on a Thursday. And I was like, yeah, so what? That's never stopped you before. We've hung out later. And he's like, yeah, but like, if I get caught, I'm fucked. And I'm like, yeah, so am I. We'll risk it together. He's like, what do you even want to do? And I was like, I don't know. Want to smoke? He's like, do you got weed? I was like, I do. He's like, okay, fine. Where do you want to meet at? And I was like, the halfway point? He's like, bet. Now, the halfway point was literally just the halfway point between me and his house. We would both leave our house at the same time, and we'd meet up on this street corner that was literally halfway between our houses, so it would save us some walking time. And yeah, I got up out of bed, I grabbed my hoodie, put that on, put on a pair of sweatpants, put on another hoodie because it was freezing cold, grabbed my backpack that had my bowl and my weed in it out of my closet, and I opened my window. I got a huge burst of 25 degree air, and I was freezing, and I was like, okay, I need a third hoodie. Turned around, grabbed a third hoodie, and then after that, I slithered out of my window and snuck out of my house, and I proceeded to quickly walk to the halfway point to meet John. Now, I got to the halfway point, didn't take very long at all, because it was a very quick walk. John was there waiting for me, we were both freezing, and we're like, alright, let's smoke. And I pulled open my backpack, grabbed the bowl. It was already packed because I already had it ready to go for the next day. And me and John started smoking together. Now, let me tell you, this shit sucked. First of all, the wind was just flying. It was going fast as hell. Kept blowing out my lighter. Couldn't light the bowl. Had to have my friend make like a cup with his hands because it wouldn't stay lit. Shit just sucked. It was not fun. We were freezing cold. My hands felt like they were getting frostbite. My nose was all red. It just did not feel good to be out there. And it didn't feel worth it, to be honest. But to be fair, that was most of my life at that age. A lot of shit felt like it wasn't worth it, but I did it anyway to say that I did it. So what are you going to do? Anyway, we kept smoking this weed. Things were going okay, I guess. And about 10 minutes later, after we finished smoking, we just kind of sat down in the snow and we're just sitting there in the freezing cold snow just talking to each other because we didn't want to go home yet. And all of a sudden, while we're sitting there talking, we see an SUV coming towards us with pretty bright lights. And, we were like, okay, it's probably just a car passing by, someone that lives in the neighborhood. And as the car approached, I realized very quickly that it was a cop car. It was a police SUV, and the police SUV saw us, we saw it, and just a few moments later, the police put their lights on, and they started slowing down next to us. Now, me and John just looked at each other like, oh, shit, because we knew we were done. Like, I had my backpack on, which had my weed in it, my bowl. It reeked like weed, I reeked like weed, so did John, we were both high. Like, there was no hiding what just happened. So, before the cop got out of his car, me and John just kind of agreed to accept our fate. I looked over at John and I was like, yo, what do we do? Like, what do we say? He's like, dude, we're caught red-handed. Like, there's nothing we can do. And I was like, fuck, you're right. Do we just admit it to him? He's like, yeah, if he asks. I'm like, okay. So the cop walks over after getting out of his car, comes up to us, and he goes, what are you boys doing out so late in the cold like this? And me and John just kind of looked at each other and looked back at the cop, and I started talking. I was like, I don't know, we just want to meet up, hang out. And he's like, don't you guys have school tomorrow? And we're like, yeah, but we'll still go. We're not going to miss the bus or anything. We're just hanging out. We live down the street from each other. And the cop goes, do your parents know you're hanging out so late? And I just really didn't care about making up a lie or anything, so I just said the truth. I was like, honestly, no. We both snuck out. We're just kind of hanging out for a few minutes, then going back home. And he's like, okay, anything else you guys are doing out here? Anything illegal? And me and John kind of look at each other, and I didn't really want to say it, neither did he. But John spoke up, and he's like, we may have smoked a little bit. And the cop goes, smoked what? And I was like, just a little bit of weed. And he goes, okay, can I see what you have? And I was like, sure. So I open up my backpack, I pull out my bowl, I pull out the tiny little bag of weed I had. It was probably like $20 worth. I show it to the cop. He grabs it out of my hands, he pulls a flashlight on it, examines it for like 2 seconds, and then puts it back in my hand. And he goes, okay, thank you. And I was like, you want me to put this back in my bag? He's like, yeah, probably a good idea. So I put the bowl and the weed back in my bag, and I'm like really confused because I'm thinking like, okay, well, now he's going to confiscate my whole bag, right? Like that's probably what he's going to do because, he's a cop. He's obviously going to confiscate the weed. But after I put the weed back in the bag in the bowl, he didn't take my bag from me. And he goes, all right, listen, since you guys were honest with me tonight, which I really appreciate, I'm not going to go home and tell your parents. I'm not going to take your stuff from you. I know what it's like to be a teenager. We've all been there before. But listen, hanging out on this street corner in the middle of the night, this late at night, is not safe for either of you. I don't know what would happen if I left you guys here alone all night. You could get mugged, robbed, you could freeze to death. Like, you really should just be home, okay? So can you guys please agree to go home and not hang out so late on this corner anymore? And me and John both nodded our heads, and we're like, yeah, of course. And he goes, okay, I'm going to take you guys home now, okay? And we're like, okay. And yeah, we got in this cop car, and he drove us back to our houses and dropped us off. I climbed back through my window. John climbed back through his, and we went to sleep. And I remember the next morning I woke up, and I genuinely thought that I had dreamed all of it. Like, I actually believed that that was like some sort of fever dream or like weed dream or something, because like I just didn't believe that it actually happened. And I checked my phone, and John texted me that morning and was like, yo, last night was crazy. And then I was like, holy shit, that actually happened. And I still had my weed in my bowl, which was nuts. Like, he gave it back to me, and I was able to keep it, which is the only time that's ever happened, because most cops will take that from you because it's technically illegal. At least back then it was. So yeah, I don't know. Moral of the story is I guess don't be like dumbass 15-year-old Luna. But yeah, all in all, crazy night, and it could have gone a lot of other ways, and I'm glad that it didn't. And I got really lucky. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.